Yeah, it looks
Man,
nice.
it's one of the benefits of having a video crew at the shop.
Right.
Yeah,
So
looks
that's
good.
your video background?
Well, no, they came out to my house and they put some lights up so it looked semi-decent.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
It looks good. It really looks good.
thanks.
Well, welcome everybody to Tone Talk. This is our episode 36 with Dave Friedman and Mark Uzansky. And tonight our special guest is Robert Keeley of Keeley Electronics. Robert, it's a pleasure to have you on. I've heard about your stuff for years and years and years, and it's an honor to talk to you, to have you on the show. Thank you.
Man, thanks a lot. It's an honor to be with you guys. Very cool.
Thanks. And Dave, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm now fully recovered from my what was I gone? I don't even know how far I was. I was gone 6 weeks. 5 weeks.
It was about 5 weeks, yeah.
5 weeks of doing clinic tours.
Wow.
US and Europe.
US and Europe, yep. Yeah. A little over 2 weeks on the East Coast, and then 5 days off, and then got on a plane and went over to Germany and the UK.
So, man, you and just maybe another guy for these clinics?
Yeah, so a guitar player, an artist of ours, went with us, and myself. And then in Europe, we met our sales guy that we have in Europe. That is our own sales guy in Europe that we employ.
Wow.
And on the East Coast, we met our US sales guy.
Nice.
So
nice.
So yeah, 3 people basically all the time.
I think I met the guitar player at Sweetwater.
No, you didn't. No, that was a different guitar player.
Okay.
That's one of our guys we use for things. But this other guy is named Sammy Bowler. He's an incredible artist. I post a lot of stuff on the Facebook and stuff on him.
Right. I'll check it out.
He's more of the guy that's the can play the tracks and can do it himself, and really he has a solo record coming out.
Oh, very cool.
Instrumental solo record. So
yeah.
So yeah, he's great.
Very cool, man.
Yep.
No, I've seen you talk about going on these clinic tours, and it's very, very interesting. I think it's pretty cool. I tried to do a couple little things, and it kind of takes a lot of stamina. You have to have a lot of stamina to be doing those shows, don't you?
Well, it's not, it's not too bad. I mean, essentially it just depends on how, much time you can take away and how many you can line up, and there's the clinics can morph into different directions. You can just talk about your products. You can, the ones we were putting on were more of a show for fans of your product and stuff. It was more of a question and answer after the fact with me and a little show with Sammy playing.
That's pretty cool.
Was that for every one of those appearances, Dave, with the Q&A?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much, except for a couple things in Europe we just did videos at with them. Cool. We didn't do a clinic. So, and then actually in Germany we did a trade show also. We did Music Productive's trade show that they do. It's sort of like Gear Fest.
Oh, okay.
Sort of the same type of thing. Like
I was wondering what that was.
Their own little NAMM show, Gear Fest kind of thing.
I wasn't sure if that was like the GitCon or one of those things, but no.
Okay. And on that one, there were stages and stuff for live music. So Sammy performed twice a day, every day for 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
Very cool.
It's cool.
Great.
So what about you, Robert? Are you in NAMM mode? Getting ready for?
We are in NAMM mode. As a matter of fact, we got
7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 weeks. Yeah, and an infinite amount more to go on the American Express, trying to get ready for all this stuff. We're going to have our biggest booth ever. We're going to have a 20 by 20 this year. And I'm really looking forward to it because we've never managed that kind of space. I always felt a little cramped. So it'll be nice to, try our hand at 20 by 20, see if we can fill it up.
The bigger the space, the larger the check.
Yeah. It is definitely ×2. Everything is times.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, it's
you want a backdrop? That's 6,000. You want padded carpet? That's 3,000,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And the padded carpet is a necessity if you're going to be standing around all the
Oh
time.
yeah, I made the mistake one time. So,
Well, fortunately, since we're here, it's a little easier for us. You know, we can bring our own carpet and stuff, far cheaper.
yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't realize
Yeah.
that. That's cool.
Yeah. No, we don't. Yeah, we don't rely on them for anything. We bring everything.
Yeah,
Smart.
that's pretty
Why not?
nice.
But
You're
we
right
bring
there.
so much stuff, they, charge you for all the union fees of assembly, which they do none of. They just watch you.
Mm.
Yeah, but this year we got some great products coming out. I think if everything goes according to plan, we should have 4 new things out. So it's gonna be a great show for us. We're gonna have a bunch of people scheduled to play and on regular intervals at the booth. So we're really trying to make it kind of a show, kind of a place where people can come and do some structured type playing or structured
Right.
improvising, structured making it up as they go. But they're going to be young, talented people, rocking some of our new stuff. So
That's great.
Cool.
That's great. Have you announced the products that you're releasing yet, or that's to be seen?
I am not one known to keep my mouth quiet, so I am sure I have leaked it on some group or some forum, and so yeah, I think we have most of them out. We have our first stereo echo pedal, and we have a distortion and or a drive rather, and a delay reverb combo. And I'm excited about that one. We got a pedal that's doing a synthesizer type thing.
Oh, that's fun.
And then we have this incredibly cool fuzz. So we got lots of cool stuff that's actually coming down.
Well, that's cool. What's all that noise? Is that you on your end, Dave?
Yeah, don't mind me. There's going to be a little bit of noise here.
Okay.
Sounds like some amp building going on.
Unfortunately, they're actually putting a floor in the back of our shop here, and they're still here, so we might hear some of that.
Yeah, I was actually going to say. So tell us about, if you have a second, Dave. What's all this restructuring you guys are doing?
Oh, just restructuring for some certain tenants that are going to be in our spot now. So I just moved around my shop and made room and lowers our overhead and fun stuff like that. I can't really say too much.
Oh, okay. I had no idea.
So, yeah. So,
cool.
Sorry, I'm dealing with something right now. Yeah, I'll be done in a second.
No problem.
Forgot to do something.
Well, keep telling me, Robert. So,
yeah,
the fuzz pedal, is that a germanium? Is that a what's the deal with that?
Right now it is a germanium based thing, but what's really cool about it is the EQ. I ripped the EQ idea from the infamous Boss MT2 because I'd been dying for years to have an extremely exaggerated bass and treble control on a fuzz, and something that was completely unnatural, and trying to decide how to do it. Then we'd been playing with a bunch of emphasis and de-emphasis circuits for our new stereo delay, and it got me thinking about how to kind of shape the sound of this fuzz. And so we take this like 3 transistor fuzz, we kind of carve it down to this cool mid-range sound, but then we take this crazy gyrator circuit from the Boss MT2 and we incorporate it on the end, and man, it just makes for some incredibly cool, huge,
blow up
doom
the
sounds.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and
blow down the wall.
It's one of those rare instances that only happen like once a couple of years where something kind of falls together really well in just a couple of days, And Creighton and I were, as fast as we could put out ideas and breadboard it, it was pretty much working. And then the artwork came together and everything like that. So it was much needed, you know, success in that kind of artistic / engineering way, because
That sounds really cool. Sounds like a great idea.
yeah, it is fun, man, because you can you get these bass responses that are just huge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the main thing that was really cool about this kind of idea is what I learned about, or what I, you know, am starting to think I'm learning about, is these, you know, kind of tone shaping circuits where you de-emphasize something or you emphasize something, then you apply some process to it. In one case, it's been DSP, but in this case, it was the fuzz that was the process. And then you shape it again on the output. And it really is kind of fun. It's a new way to play with sound. So this new fuzz pedal is kind of cool. It was actually, even though it has nothing to do with DSP, are playing with these circuits that lower noise in digital circuits. I kind of realized that that's kind of what they were doing in the MT2. And I thought, oh, well, this is really cool. I'll just, you know, strip away all the bass and all the treble from a fuzz circuit, make it real mid-rangey, and then do this, you know, emphasis circuit afterwards, this boss EQ, and it just came out great. So that's the kind of stuff that's kind of buzzing around the shop now. Plus, we have a bunch of new manufacturing stuff that we do now. So it's been a really, really busy year.
Yeah, so I actually had read about that. So you recently had changed your manufacturing. Can you tell us about that?
Sure. It started with kind of all things that happen at Keeley Electronics. We get jammed up. We're behind on something, and I'm sure Dave knows all too well about all this. You get, you know, some supplier does something, something breaks, and next thing you know, you're looking to take on and solve the problem once and for all. And our guy had, for whatever reason, up in Kansas that made our surface mount boards. He got behind, and it just seemed like I should be doing this anyways. You know what I mean? And we should be making our own circuit boards. So I started looking into it, and every time I looked into it, it was, you'd have to buy like a used machine, it seemed like, and they were like 30 grand. It just seemed outrageously expensive to put together what's called a surface mount production line, or a surface mount technology, you know, automated assembly. So that's like the robot that's putting the pieces on. That's the ovens that are soldering it. And then lastly, you can have what's called a selective solder that goes and solders the parts that are through hole. And so I started looking into it, and it just seemed hard to put the pieces together. It seemed hard to see how all these machines interacted. So I started looking, and I found this company called Mancorp, and Mancorp specialized in complete turnkey systems. So then it was just a matter of negotiating, you know, a lease and a down payment, because by the time I gave them the numbers of circuit boards I wanted to make and gave them the output I expected, it seemed like this line could do it, and it would make sense. And so off we went on that adventure of setting up to have this, you know, bigger equipment in there and getting all the electricity, the 220 for this and 3-phase for that. And then we find out we have to get a nitrogen tank for the selective solder. So next thing you know, we've got plumbing of inert gases going around the building, and this huge tank. I mean, I don't know, it's got to be like 12-foot around cylinder or something of nitrogen. So they came out. We spent the summer receiving the equipment and setting it up. They came out and they trained us on it. And after the 3 days of training, we were making circuit boards just as they had promised me. And it was entirely, bad to the bone. It was really, really cool to see. And so, we took a pause as we started doing our designs. And in fact, tomorrow, I think we officially fire up the whole thing and start making boards start to finish for our regular production, not just ironing details out, but we finally got everything in line. And so, yeah, tomorrow we take it out on tour.
Oh boy.
It's pretty exciting, man.
That is exciting.
We still build stuff by hand. We still build fuzz pedals by hand, and do all the stuff that's fun, for me on that level. But the stuff that has to be cranked out because it's a good or a common design and kind of a breadwinner thing. I love taking it to the level where we're making the board. I think it helps us make a better product just because we have to understand the manufacturing process now. So, so now we actually build everything in-house now. So
well, that's great. Yeah. You have more control. You have more control over your QC and everything like that. So, right. So I would imagine
theoretically.
Yeah. Ken.
So in theory, we can get stuff.
They're doing boxes too?
We don't. Oh, the cases. Yep, we have CNCs. I get the cases from China, unfortunately, but I get the cases in, and then we do all the CNC. We got 4 CNC machines, and then we cutting them,
or milling them or whatever.
Yeah, and then we do the powder coating and the printing.
Oh, so yeah. Are they UV printed?
They are. It is pretty cool. Is that how your pedals are printed?
Yep, everything. Yeah, panels, amp panels, all sorts of stuff, UV printed.
Oh, really?
We have two. We have two Mamaki machines.
That's what we have too. We have 2 of those.
Yep. So all those other pedals that Boutique Amps Distribution makes and everything, it's all done that way.
Mm-hmm. No, those Mamakis are great machines, aren't they?
Yeah,
I like them.
There was I remember when they first got them, there was a slight learning curve on what they print on well, what materials they print on well, and what materials they don't print on well.
Ain't that the truth? That's
oh, well, look, I can scrape it right off.
Exactly, man. We had these 2 Roland printers that I spent a fortune on, much more than I spent on the Mamakis. And those darn things, every time they would update the formula and the programming, they would print on less and less powder coating. And every time you think, oh, it's a polyester with this kind of, chemical composition will work. And then you tried it next week and then it would stop working. And man, I think I paid a fortune for those printers, and oh, well, I don't know. I guess they use them to print on telephone cases is maybe what they're good for, but
yeah, I don't know.
So Dave, recently I saw someone post about one of your pedals. They were like, oh, it's made of plastic. And you're like, no, it's just the front plate.
Yeah, no, yeah, your pedal's made of plastic. I'm like going, no, it's a die cast box like every other pedal in the world.
Right.
In particular, they were talking about the new one. It's it's even improved. It's got metal jacks. It's got a heavy duty power jack, just like most other things. And the plate that goes on top of the pedal is a metallized plastic material. It's the same kind of material we use on the front of amp panels.
Right.
So which is UV printed on, because it looks like the amp panel. And you can't print metallic paint.
No,
you can't UV print metallic paint. So the gold and stuff that we use on a lot of products, you have to can't.
Yeah,
I wish we could, but we can't.
I really like the panel or the plate that goes on your pedal. I think it looks great because it looks like the amp.
Yeah, it looks like the amp. That was the idea. Do I want to do that with every pedal? Maybe in the future there might be some other ones that are a little different. because I think maybe if I decide to do something a little crazier, maybe it doesn't really apply, it doesn't look right or something. I might do something different. But
Yeah,
for the ones we've done so far, yeah,
I think it's a great look.
I think it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't have that for the Fuzz Fiend or the
No,
Motor
the Fuzz
City
Fiend
truck.
were very classy, big. Now
Mhm.
you get your Fuzz Fiend tomorrow.
Yes, I do. I'm looking forward to it, by the way.
Um,
Yeah, but they're printed. It just says Friedman logo on it, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a metal badge logo. That's actually UV printed, but it's a little tiny metal badge that's screwed to the pedal. It looks really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
I like how
That's
that's
good.
looked. But the rest of it was UV, I think. Yeah, or powder coat. It might have been screen printed on those for some reason. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My pedals aren't plastic, people. Okay, got it.
No, they're not plastic.
Definitely not.
What?
I've been wanting to
Would
do
you think I'd make a plastic pedal? First off, didn't MXR learn that back in the '80s? Don't make a plastic pedal. Or Ibanez.
Although
I think Ibanez did.
Dan Electro sold a ton of those little plastic pedals, though. Remember those?
Oh yeah, the really
The
cheap
bacon and eggs or
little
whatever.
little tiny.
Yeah, they sold a ton of those.
Hey, yeah, but it's also like $20.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. The target market was much different. So,
Yeah.
Hey, I got a question for you, Robert, from a really big fan. His name is Robert, and I want to go ahead and pronounce his last name correctly. And
boy.
I think it's no, I said Robert. It's Anthony Sagis. I'm so sorry, Anthony. I was looking at something else. So he asked, and I think this is a great question. He'd love to know about your working process, how you go from concept to prototype to a finished product. And he said that the compressors are what you've been known for, but he'd love to know the stories behind some of your other pedals like the Dyno My Roto or the Dark Side. So before we go there, I'd love to know more about your process. And you talked about like how you had a real quick process with the fuzz pedal. Like, does that always happen, or throwing the stuff at you? Sorry.
No, it's great, man. The design process for me, I have learned that I'm a spaz. I don't track very well, and things come in bursts. And I found it extremely beneficial to have people around me like Creighton and Aaron, and they help me with the design work to get the ideas out or to apply some sort of material focus to the designs. But I think I'll get a lot of my ideas for the pedals as I'm driving around, as I'm moving around, trying to literally daydream about sounds. That's what I really like to try to force myself to do. How do I create new sounds? And how do I mix different sounds together to create something hopefully new and something useful? Mm. And during that process, I kind of will flutter to other new ideas, and I'll take off on this tangent, and I want to get involved with these people, and do a project with this guy, and do a project with this company. And so thankfully I've found some focus in getting these two young, engineerlings is what I call them, junior engineers, to help me materialize these things. So the process is us talking about sounds or something that I was enamored with, or over the moon about, and bringing it to them and trying to figure out how we can materialize it. So that's how the design process has really worked. Sometimes it's much more it's a little more clinical than that when you're trying to run a business. So you have to think in terms of what sells. I mean, a tube screamer sells. So at some point in time, you come up and you go, "Dang, I got to make a tube screamer," and then after a while, you're like, "Well, it's time to make a tube screamer again," So there's lots of ways to look at the tube screamer thing, and but so sometimes I design for trying to fill out my product line, because I'm in my head I'm trying to make this nice complete product line, and fill, check a lot of the boxes as we acquire new skills, so it kind of works like that, that some things are necessity, some things are just kind of my fancy, or something I think is a great idea this week.
Right.
So, but yeah, that guy, his name was Anthony, asked the question.
Anthony Seguis, yeah.
Seguis. He had a second part though, so that's kind of the design process. I mean, on a clinical level, I'm like, it's either in one of two worlds. It's either in the more analog, say, drive world, or it's in the DSP world. So I'll, depending on what's going on, I might be, hey, Creighton, what, do we have any fuzz boards that we can, add a, second stage to easily? And I was thinking about this idea here, and I really want to hear what it sounds like if we do this. Can you build that? Or, what are you doing right now? As he's involved in a million other, projects, setting up our pick and place and finishing our other circuit board designs. Or if it's a DSP design, then that's kind of a different process, because that's like painting with, I don't know, Technicolor or something like that, because if you can understand the math of what's going on with a certain sound, then it's pretty easy to do DSP programming. And if you have, as long as you know that type of conversion process, like how do I apply this kind of filter? How do I add this kind of delay? How do I sum these things in this fashion? Then DSP is, and daydreaming about sounds like that is totally, fun. And it's very, very rewarding, because it would be cumbersome or impossible to build some of the circuits, some of the unnatural reverbs, they just, you just couldn't do. So the design process goes kind of like that until, then we have, meetings, and we discuss, which of my ideas we're going to go after, what about the last time you had a good idea? What are we doing with that project? And then, it gets to the point where I'm like, hey, let's order some 5 sample boards to see if this thing works. And, and it continues to get refined like that. Like, we like to push ourselves. So we are, every single day making developments on our stereo delay platform. Every day we're trying to solve some new challenge or problem where it doesn't quite fit the bill yet. It doesn't meet all of our expectations. So the design process is a lot of like, well, what's making that thing click? What's going on here with this circuit? Why is that thing reading the expression pedal control wrong now? And so the design process is lots of that kind of stuff, where you're just troubleshooting and stuff. That's kind of where we are. So
that's cool. Yeah. The second part of his question was he wanted to know more about certain pedals like the Dyno, Myroto, and the Dark Side.
Yeah,
I would love to know more about the Dark Side. So
the first time I thought he asked about the Dynatrim, but the Dyno Myroto is really cool, because that was again in DSP we were able to do a tri-chorus, and after it wasn't stereo though, darn it, but we could do that now. We can do it now. But no, they had the Dyno My Piano.
Dyno 2.
Yeah, Dyno 2. Deluxe Dyno 2. And then, so.
Deluxe.
So, yeah, well, I got a bunch of deluxe pedals in my head rolling around.
Yeah.
Deluxe 2s. So, no, the Dyno Myroto features a roto flange, and it features our, what I'm really proud of, that's also in the Dark Side. So I was wondering if Anthony was talking about that, is our rotary speaker stuff, I think is particularly good. I think that one is one thing that I'm really proud of our sounds, because we have spent a lot of time talking about the difference in the woofer, that's spinning at one speed, and then the tweeter that's rotating up top. And what does it actually sound like instead of just looking at, just those two sort of, phasery type, pitch shifting effects in a more clinical sense. So we're trying to create some room dynamics then with our rotary simulation, and how far is the guy standing away from it. So those type of things on the Dyno My Roto were fun to develop. And we also have a rotary in the dark side. So those things are fun. What's nice about the dark side is it kind of shows a mixed signal design for us, where half of it's an analog fuzz and then half of it's this, kind of all the effects that David Gilmour would use. And that kind of sprang from the Monterey, where we're mixing a fuzz and a bunch of Jimi Hendrix type effects. Right. So those kind of, I don't know, around the shop, I call them our artist series pedals, although we don't have any endorsements or anything like that. But where you're trying to capture all the sounds of
the artist,
the artist, but it's not like I'm trying to make to limit it to that. I'm actually trying to look how I can put these sounds together and do something a little new or fresh with them. Is what I'm hoping people do. I'm hoping they're not just for replication and stuff like that.
Right.
With the dark side, pleasantly surprised that Kenny Greenberg, who's a Nashville ace and plays with Kenny Chesney and just a big studio, session guy rather. And he said he's got like 3 different dark sides out on different rigs that he records with and writes with. And so it's kind of cool where these concepts of putting certain sound packages together, then it jumps outside the genre that it was intended for,
right.
A country Nashville guy is playing the effects and using those rotary effects in those two. So
that's cool. Yeah, I love the idea of the Monterey pedal, Hendrix in a box, and then obviously the dark side having Pink Floyd or Gilmour. I'd love to see a Van Halen in a box, like distortion with a phaser, and maybe
tell me all about it. So I'm gonna have to talk with Dave on these things because he's a tone sculptor of those type of tones. But when I start to think about the Van Halen pedal, a Van Halen-esque pedal, it's really pretty cool, because I imagine this thing that has not only like the stereo reverb effect, right? So if you ran it to 2 amplifiers, you could create that same imaging. That would be a basic necessity. For me, I really like, of course, so you have to be able to turn on and off a phaser too. So you got another switch right there. Mm-hmm. Then you have to be able to quite easily go to a flanger. So that phaser flanger thing has got to be, switchable. So you got a modulation section. Mm-hmm. But then in my mind, I want to do something like Cathedral. And I've spent a lot of time with my DSP guy.
Yeah, but see, then you'd also have to have an Echoplex kind of sound in there.
Well, of course, I was getting there.
And you're right. And a Cathedral type sound. So essentially what you're saying is it's this big.
I know. And that's the problem with it, because I get too excited about it, because like you could call out a million little nuanced things that are so critical to that Van Halen enjoyment. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do a Van Halen type of pedal without being able to do that dual delay and chorus type thing, that ADT type stuff on that particular song.
And then depending on which era, then you got to do the detune also. So depending, that's a lot.
I would really like to do it, but I don't know anyone's appetite for a long thing. And I get kind of discouraged actually when I see these things like Kempers or whatever. I saw one of my favorite demo guys, Brett Kingman. He demonstrated something, and I don't know, he caught me in a mood where I was just like, damn, that sounds so ridiculously good. And I thought, shit, there's no reason to do a pedal if you can just dial it up like that, man. And so I go in and out of, wanting to do the Van Halen pedal. I think it would be a nice challenge, though, is actually where I'll probably end up doing it one day, because like you said, the size of the pedal, it gets kind of big and stuff like that. But it sure would be fun to have a rig that you could plug your guitar in. You got the Echoplex, like Dave said. You have the the flange and phaser instantly available, and then you got the
chorus,
stereo outputs. Yeah. And so,
and then the detune part, yeah.
but that's already at like 4 stomp switches, so it's already at like 12
Yeah.
inches wide or something. It's kind of silly then. Damn. It goes from being a cool idea to being silly.
Yeah, I get it. He
Darn
also
it.
Anthony had also suggested an edge in a box. The edge in a box, which would be cool.
Now
That would be a little easier.
that'd be a little easier, I think, too, unless I'm naive, but which is probably the case. But I think that one might be kind of easier.
Yeah, I would imagine, definitely. Well, that's cool. No, that's really cool. I mean, Robert, I've heard about your stuff really since I started playing, since I got into it, because did you start out modifying pedals? Is that really where you?
I was going to go here. Why don't you go back and tell us how you get started in this this dumb business?
Sure, man. That's so cool that you asked. I played guitar as a teen, and my dad and mom got stationed in Germany, so I was in the 80s. Right as like Yngwie exploded on the scene, and Steve Vai was doing stuff, and I could not get enough of all the guitar tabs, so I was learning Al Di Meola and trying my best to learn Tony McAlpine and all this stuff that you would do in the 80s if you were into guitar. If it was in that Guitar for the Practicing Musician magazine, I had already read it 30 times. So and when after 4 years for that assignment, we got transferred here, and Oklahoma was the next stop after Germany. And so I just took up roots here. There was no music scene in Oklahoma when I got here in 1988, 89. None. It was a dust. Yeah, I don't know if it would be known on a national level as a music scene, but it's modernity around here now. I mean, it's a nice place to live now, but in the 80s, it was a dust bowl of just nothing, and it just nothing had happened, nothing had developed in many years since the last oil boom. So I had to do something for a living, and that's where I started getting into stereo stores, and I worked at audio shops and hi-fi shops, and we did car stereos and home stereos, home theater systems, and at the time, all those guys from the 70s had been in the stereo store, so they were all these cool guys that knew all the great tube equipment and hi-fi stuff. So I got to see and work on lots of great American and British hi-fi, and then tons and tons of Japanese stuff. And that's where I kind of got a lot of the basics while I started going to engineering school. And then I worked for an engineer who designed all the Glamour Shots equipment. And
really?
all that photography stuff, guess what he did? He modified the Sony's and Panasonic recording equipment and camera stuff to be able to capture and get that look. So we were making our own circuit boards, we were modifying gear, and that type of stuff. So that my next job kind of got that kind of stuff in my head. And then I worked for another guy at another stereo store after that as I finished up my degree. And he was kind of one of those guys that was a real entrepreneur type business guy that was really into the development of the people in the company. So then I got this, I don't know what the best way to characterize it is, but I had this boss that was all into doing exactly what it would take to be the best you can be, like I don't know. So he was really into fine tuning people. So I got all that kind of stuff in me. And at that time, as he's encouraging us to be entrepreneurs and to do what we want to do, I discovered the Fender Tweed Deluxe. And my landlord at this little, 600 square foot house comes up to my house one day, and he's holding in his hand what I later came to find out was a 1960 Fender Deluxe. And this was a 5F3 circuit. And I was reading the Gerald Weber Kendrick books, and I was getting into it. And all of a sudden, my landlord gifts me this tube amp.
Oh,
And
wow.
I went from a PV Deuce to a Fender, and I was so hooked, you know. Yeah, that's all I could think and breathe. You know what I mean? Was
Right.
tube amps.
I thought you were going to
tube
say
amps.
I thought you were going to say the landlord, you were playing too loud. That's what I thought. That's where I thought you were going.
This old guy named Bill, coolest dude, and you just had to imagine. I was reading these books, and I was trying to modify my PV to, you know, take out the feedback loops. I could see if I like the distortion sound better, you know, and I was just trying my best to get onto this thing. But I'm reading about all these, you know, 50s Fenders and stuff. And I kid you not, my landlord walks up to me and literally says, "I found one at a garage sale. Here you go."
Oh, nice.
And that was just like, you know, giving me cracks. So I was, I totally got into it and started then I'd go to flea markets and I'd find chassis and I'd start building tube amps from the chassis. So I'd look for ones that had like 6V6s or 6L6s, and then I'd take up that stuff and see if I had the right amount of preamp tubes to do something cool with it. And I built a couple of those, and I thought I was going to try to go into building amps, but I couldn't figure out how to put the money together to grow a business at all. And that's when pedals came in. Pedals were real easy because you have a fraction of the amp cost into parts.
Yeah.
And you know, it doesn't weigh a ton and blah 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 blah. And I got really lucky. You know, I got it in my head to build one and to see what it sounded like, you know, a Ross compressor clone. And I said, you know what, when I finally heard it all put together, I was like, this is freaking heaven. And I put it up on eBay and it immediately sold. And so then I used that one to buy parts for the next two and did that. And by the end of the year, I was like, I don't know, I think I was 6 to 8 weeks back ordered, and, you know, hiring my students that were, that I had, you know, to build pedals. So I was, you know, I teach them in the morning, and then they go home with a box of parts and assemble compressor boards and compressors. And then I was like, after a year of teaching school, after I got my degree, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm doing pedals. You know, it just exploded, you know.
So you started off with the compressor,
and then the mods followed. But go ahead. Yeah, exactly. The compressor.
Yeah, that's really what you kind of became known for, was the Keeley compressor, right? So
yeah, I you know, very, very grateful. The compressor and
The compressor,
you know,
and then all the mods.
right.
The mods were really cool because
on mods.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're exactly right. We would order 120 DS1s at a time.
Yeah.
You know, and man, we had a lot of fun with those things because that was early enough in the day where I got to actually, you know, work with Joe Satriani and Steve Vai and, you know, exchange maybe an email or two or a phone call once with those guys. But that was good enough for me, and did some of the early mods for them, and kind of with them in mind, or, you know, at least the thought of them in mind. So the mods were in the beginning because, again, I saw on this Japanese gear, however simple it was, I'd see how they would use diodes they would use LEDs for clipping. And before I knew about the TS9DX, I thought, man, we could just switch out diodes and we could switch out caps and do all this stuff. And sure enough, those little toggle switches and stuff like that was all kind of new, and it allowed people that had a sound that they already were familiar with, you know, they already knew what a tube screamer sounded like, but they, you know, for like, you know, $50, they could get another new sound added to it. And so it was a great way to start building pedals by just making those.
Yeah, I remember using a bunch of those modded tremolos that you did.
Oh yeah, that volume
tremolo
control thing was pretty cool. That one. So what I did, you think I actually like that MT2 pedal, but I was in the MT2 and I noticed that dual gain pot that they used in there. And I knew I looked at the values of that thing and I was like, yay, I can stick this in the TR2 and make it look like a Boss product, and with that dual concentric knob. And so then they were like wondering, why you order so many parts, you know, of these potentiometers? Because we're always out of stock, you know. And I was like, no, I'm modifying them. I'm using this part for something. And after we got over that understanding that I just wanted to source a bunch of those parts, they were happy with it. But that TR2 mod was kind of fun.
Yeah,
Very
it was great.
simple.
Yeah.
Super simple.
Did Boss ever approach you after you were doing all these mods, either A, to ask you to stop, or B, partner with you? I'm curious how that works.
The answer is A, to ask me to stop. And then it went horribly right. And then they allowed me to start modding them. So at a summer NAMM show down in Austin, one time they had it in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And the head of Boss Roland invited me to one of those Boss parties, because at the time, I hope I don't make any mistakes here, but at the time we were, I think, like the second or third largest independent dealer of Boss pedals. We bought more Boss pedals than anybody except for like a Guitar Center or a chain. We were the largest single store.
I believe it.
So I got invited to this Boss party, and then next thing I know, he was having a serious conversation with me, and he was saying, but Robert, the problem is we have international dealers that are concerned about having to perform warranty work on the products after you've modified them, and they don't like the fact that you're sending the products overseas into their territory. And he says, so what? So because of the warranty issue. And I said, well, this is the way I thought about it. I said, the first thing I did was I voided the warranty and I took on all the responsibilities for repair, when I modified it.
That's
so
what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. And so as soon as he heard that, he was like, oh, okay. So no warranty repairs for any of these things that you modify. And I'm like, no, I void the warranty.
Mm-hmm.
He was perfectly happy with that. And he was like, okay, you can keep on modding them.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's easy enough.
Yeah, that one worked out good.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. So, like, what was some of your biggest modded pedals that you did back in the day?
Yeah, the Tube Screamer and the DS1 and the Blues Driver. Those were the big ones. Mm-hmm. And then, things like the SD1 and the MT2. Those kind of came in there. I'm sure we did a lot of Rats, and we did a ton of wall pedals. Wall pedals are another thing that, they're big, bulky, and they're always breaking.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh. So getting in the wall business is only for people that like to hurt themselves.
I'm in the wall business now.
I was going to say Dave's in the wall business now.
Well, more power to you. I wish I could be, but it seems like that's a tough business.
Oh, let's hope it's not.
I mean, hopefully, do you have? I'm sure you found out where being happy with the price of your cases or something. I don't know what your pedal looks like.
Yeah,
is it your own case?
Wall. No,
traditional wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I always wondered about manufacturing on that case, because I would have the tendency to want to add some switches and to have it do something, this or that, and so I would have to do a lot of machining on it, I think. You know what I mean? Maybe I should get a mold done. But so have you been?
That's what we did.
Oh yeah. So
gotcha.
But those pedals were popular,
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it's doing really well, actually.
That's good.
It just came out. It's doing quite well.
Is that released this year?
Yeah, it was released the November.
Along with the
no, wait, a little earlier in November. Was it October we released it? Oh hell, I don't know. October we released it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the other pedals got released just a few weeks ago. 19th.
Right. So Robert, when take us back also, so at what point did you start going from modifications of pedals to your own line of pedals, and did you stop modifying pedals, or you're still doing that? Or
yeah, we have completely stopped modding pedals. It just I don't know how I made money doing it. I think because we had so much volume, but it's just not what I want to pursue. But the original product line started off really slow. You know, it had the Katana, which was just a simple 2-transistor circuit with some FETs and some voltage doubling, and that and the compressor and a Java Boost, which is just a Dallas Rangemaster, were the products for a long while. I had a guy with me that helped develop a tap tempo phaser, and we had a overdrive pedal. And then I found myself in this like Mortal Kombat divorce, and in order to pay the bills of the divorce, that started me off on a design kind of frenzy. And in that process,
Great.
yeah, yeah. So in that process, I realized that the mods were slowing us down. I couldn't build enough pedals, and I was sitting there toiling away on these mods and shipping them back and forth and stuff like that. So that's kind of how the mods, you know, fell by the wayside. It just wasn't practical anymore to receive somebody's pedal and modify it and send it back out and that type of thing. When I was having much more fun trying to put together a tube screamer and you know, my first chorus and my first delay and stuff like that. That was much more interesting than modding a tube screamer, you know?
Right.
So I was like, well, heck with that. So
that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. So our what I call our phase 2 of Keeley Electronics, or the rebirth of Keeley Electronics, or whatever you want to call it, that kind of started in 2012 and then started picking up steam, you know, by 2014. And by then it was, we had printers and we had a CNC, and then it felt like we could do anything because we could get a board in a couple days.
You got past the divorce.
We got past the divorce. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
And it was time to pay off all my IRS debt and all my other problems. And so we had to do that by making lots of new stuff, and we had to keep on, you know, you can't, you know, do that with just tube screamers or just blues breakers or something,
Sure.
you know, so you have to stretch. And that's where we developed a lot of our skills for our designs that we do now, you know. But the mods are too slow, man. 3 times a day, I'm not even joking, 3 times a day we get an email in one form or another. Facebook, somebody says, I can't quite find out where to click to modify my own tube screamer. And I have to tell them, man, I'm sorry, we don't do that stuff anymore.
Right. Well, there's still guys out there who do.
Yeah. No, there's lots of cool mods. I go down the rabbit hole sometimes, and I'll be just looking around, and I'll follow somebody's mod work, and they do all kinds of cool stuff these days. You know what I mean? It's there's all kinds of cool stuff going on. Yeah.
Well, we had an Analog Man on Mike, so he still does a lot of modifications on pedals and stuff like that too. So
good.
We had a question, a top chat question with a donation to our channel. Thank you. And I think this is a question for Dave. Did you see the question, Dave?
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, Mark asked, I noticed that you posted some clinic photos of both the Fryette power station and the UA aux with your amps. Which do you like best for attenuation, feel, etc.? Really, in both the photos that you're talking about, we weren't using them for any attenuation. We were using the UA for a direct feed for the video we were doing. So it wasn't attenuated at all. And the Fryette power station was being used as a power amp for a wet cabinet in the other picture. So we weren't using it. But for an attenuator, the Fryette power station is pretty great. I mean, it's hard to compare the two. UA aux is kind of an attenuator traditionally. Fryette power stations is more of a load and a power amp. Fryette, I feel, is for just doing that kind of attenuation works maybe even better, or it gives you some more options. The UA is a whole nother beast. I mean, that's like a great recording beast to you know, record with, you know, speaker emulation and different cab models and all the stuff they have in it. How does it compare to my master volumes? I mean, my master volumes work really good down really low to really loud. So I mean, if you have a non-master volume amp, let's say an old Marshall or something, like an old 100-watt 70s Marshall, the power station is going to really do you really well. I mean, but both products have their pluses and minuses, so they're both great products.
I'm using a power station right now with a I've got an old style Fender Vibrolux Vibroverb kind of thing, and it doesn't have an effects loop on it, and so now I turn it up, get some nice little drive, have the effects loop on it with the Fryette power station, and it just sounds glorious.
Fryette power station is a Swiss Army knife. Does a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Really quite cool to have floating around. It
is. It's a good thing to have. I agree. My cousin came over and saw it, and he listened to it, and he said, "Okay, I have to get that." It's like that's it. Sold. Ching.
Yeah.
So Robert, we've got about 175 people watching the show right now.
Nice.
Lots of good questions are floating by. I'm going to go back in the chat. We got Reza in the chat. What's up, Reza? Brian Coate. And then Big Mac asked the question. He says, bass player here, always played straight. Can you recommend something to get started with effects?
The Dyno Myroto we talked about earlier sounds really amazing on bass.
Oh, cool.
There are some really cool chorus sounds on there, and that one is always something I turn on or let a bass player come over when they don't have any effects, and they hear it and they go, "Oh, that's why I need that. I need that sound right there." You know, and our bassist compressor is really awesome. It's a precision tool, and so if the bass player is used to using compressors for part of their sound, they love it. But I think something like the Dyno Myroto is perfectly perfect starting place where you get lots of effect, you know, or our Seafoam chorus. It has a bass mode as well. There's a little switch, and you can put it in, and we designed a bunch of effects just for bass on that pedal. So,
see, my mind went right to Fuzz for some reason, but but your options were cool too, definitely.
Well, man, that one's kind of personal. I don't know if I could do any justice by telling a bass player a specific one fuzz sound that they might, you know, for their first effects pedal. No, I don't know if I could do that. But I think most bass players could appreciate a nice tri-chorus sound, making their bass sound all lush, you know, fluid.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So there's one question I saw for you, Robert. Someone, L. Scott Music, asked about the Sweetwater Omniverb pedal.
Yes.
What is it derived from? What would I expect from it? Is his question.
Nice. That is, keep it as simple as possible, Robert. Sweetwater wants a delay that's just a reverb that's just a two-knob reverb. And I tried my hardest to talk them out of that, but I'm like, but I can do this and I can do that and the other thing. They're like, no, we just want a simple reverb. And so that's what it's kind of born from is the demand for a very simple, you know,
like a plate or a hall or what is it?
It's all three. It's
Okay.
a spring, it's a plate, and it's a hall. And if I'm not mistaken, if it's not a hall, it's a hall, I think. And keep it simple. So we focused on just making sure that it did, you know, blend and depth really well. So
yeah, I like that idea.
It is fun because you can't get to jacking around with it. So it literally, if I'm going to bring a couple pedals with me to a hotel or throw in a little bag for travel, then I'll force myself to do something like that where it's nice and simple, so I don't have to overthink it and stuff like that. So the Omni Reverb for Sweetwater has been really cool, nice and simple.
So that's a Sweetwater exclusive.
It is. Sweetwater exclusive.
That's cool. I also like how you did the Dan and Mick pedal, the D&M pedal.
Now that was a great success. I wish everything turned out like that. Those guys brought to me what sounds that they wanted in a box. I would have not put those sounds together, and I would have, not thought to do that at all. And that's one of those things where I'm like, hey, I want to work with these guys. These guys had this idea to put this pedal together, and we can put their faces on it and blah 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 blah. But it was their ideas for how they wanted the each half voiced exactly. They knew exactly what they want from years of playing those sounds, and so I put that package together. And then Daniel Steinhardt wanted to have the ability for the pedal to be broken up, so we came up with this little switching system for routing the pedals. And we use that in every dual pedal design since. So that on so many levels has been really ace for me, is just working with those guys, because it's nice and simple and no drama. And the
That's
pedal
always nice.
sells, yes, I know. And the pedal sells really well, and it allowed us to do something. I finally, I got the benefit of working with somebody else, in that I wouldn't have pushed to do the signal routing like that. And it's been a benefit for our other pedals that came out since then. So it's kind of cool working with them.
Can you describe it? Can you describe the pedal for people who haven't heard it or know about it?
Sure. So it's a dual drive pedal. It's got two simple true bypass, boost and drive. And the problem with multi-effects boxes like that is you can't insert something in between, or you can't put them in a effect pedal switcher, an audio switching device, if you can't get to each effect pedal separately. So if someone has a G2 gig rig switching system, or a Boss, whatever it is, ME500, unless you have access to each effect independently. And how we do that is through TRS cables and a switching system inside. So you can switch the modes so that it can use TRS jacks, and it allows you to get independent access to each of the effects if you have a switcher. So, or you can use it for an insert and switch the order and all kinds of stuff like that. So just a little thing like that. But now that we've started incorporating it, it's helping us with our new design too, our new Echo pedal, and how we're dealing with switching and stuff like that. So again, it's kind of fun when you're working for other pedal manufacturers or whatever entities, that it kind of forces you to do stuff that you hadn't accomplished for whatever reason, and now you have a different skill set.
Right. No, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So another question that popped in my head before you mentioned Satriani and Vi, that you had interactions with them. Can you tell us about different artists that you've worked with that that we may know, and that'd be great to hear some stories.
Man, I've just worked with just a few of them. It's not Oklahoma's not a hub for anything. So it's like, if they're on their way, out of Dallas or something like that, then we might catch a tour. So I don't get to work with as many people as I would really like to. But we had Larry Lalonde of Primus come by the shop, and we tried to develop some sounds with him, and we did a bunch of custom pedals for him. That was a blast. And Dweezil Zappa came by the shop, and
Nice.
I always like working with him. Every couple of years, he might need a little treble booster circuit or something to play with, or his repaired, and so every once in a while I get to work with him. And then had Jimmy Vaughn come by. Now he doesn't use any of my effects pedals, but the guys in his band do. And so all different kinds of people. We built stuff for Peter Frampton for a while. I liked working with Peter Frampton, and
nice.
So Brad Paisley, John Mayer, all kinds of cool, fun people. Lots of new people now, because now that my team is developed enough where I have a full-time artist relations guy. It's Aaron Pierce, who's in our videos, and a full-time media guy. Now they can focus on building the relationships with these musicians and guitar players that I couldn't quite afford to manage all those different hats of trying to design, trying to run a company, and artist relations being the cool, chill hang that everyone wants to have. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I've got a guy that is a absolute angel and represents the brand and just, never messes up and is really cool. And he handles the artist. So finally I can do that. So I don't really work with a lot of people.
Well, that's cool. No, but I mean,
I'm sure I do. I work with a lot of people, but I don't remember.
right. No, I got you. But I mean, quite honestly, I've seen your pedals on so many people's boards. I mean, obviously the compressor's on almost like every Nashville guy's board,
Yeah.
So it's pretty successful.
It is,
Yeah,
man.
the
I
compressor
think
or the leveling amp or the bigger compressor or the
yeah. And the compressor just hit 60,000 sometime this summer or fall, and so making 60,000 of something is kind of cool. It's a lot of fun. I mean, usually something that sells between 3,000 or 5,000, if the serial numbers are that high, that's usually a pretty decent pedal, But the compressor continues to do really well.
Yeah, that's great. I actually have
Mhm.
one on the way, by the way. So
You do?
yes, I do. The
Nice.
old two knob though. I got it off of Reverb. I know that doesn't make you happy. I'm sorry.
No, you know what? You have to be happy with that kind of stuff. The guys at Reverb were saying we're looking at the sales of our Keeley stuff, and they said it was pretty balanced for what you would expect for used versus new and stuff like that. So I think Reverb's natural. You can't complain about that.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting question. How people feel about the resale. Like, I know certain, like in amps, small manufacturers can get killed with that. I don't know, Dave. What are your thoughts on that?
on resale and used stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I look at it sort of, you're always coming up with a new item, right? You're always coming up with a new thing. Well, you just need to top your old thing in order for you to stay relevant.
And have people continue buying. Yeah.
They continue buying. Yeah, exactly. So, Kat, I don't even know how many compressors you have now.
Man, really, I know it seems kind of funny. We really only have, I guess it's 4, but there's actually only
Well,
3
there's
designs.
the 2-knob, the original one, right?
We don't make that one anymore.
Okay. And then there's the limiting amp.
Now that one is really nice. That one is a precision instrument, and that's based on the That Corp IC.
I like that one a lot. That one's a good one.
That one does good, and it's very similar. That's what we use in the Compressor Pro.
Right.
So
right.
That one just has the attack and release, and the hard knee, soft knee. The limiting amp is like the guys that go on tour and want something at the end of their board to contain, volume shifts between different drive pedals or combinations pedals. They totally love it, and they totally get that limiting amp. That's like a perfect tool for lots of people. Whereas the regular Compressor Plus, that's kind of the continuation of the 2-knob, and now with the blend control, of course, it makes sense to a lot of humbucker players, because in the beginning, I hadn't
grabs too hard.
Oh yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
It doesn't release ever.
Isn't the 2-knob? 2-knob is the evolution of kind of the Dynacomp / Ross, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. All I did to those was just make the common suggested power supply or biasing improvements, but getting those transistors, ones that sounded good. Actually, believe it or not, you can hear the difference in that little circuit there. If you have an old 2-knob compressor, you can hear certain squishy differences in the way that the circuit reacts, and so when people say they love their old 2-knob, still I believe them. Yeah,
but
sure.
But it doesn't work as well with humbuckers. That's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, until you can kind of blend out some of that effect, or until we made the change for the what's actually the release time, then it doesn't get hung up on over compressing a humbucker, And so you can make it so that it releases quickly. So the next note sounds punchier. And so that's one thing we did. And finally gave into adding a blend control to it. And once we aced that one, again, another thing I kind of stole from the Boss thing. I stole it from an emphasis circuit. How funny is I turned one of their emphasis controls circuits into a treble recovery circuit, and then it finally sounded right to me when you would take that tone control and that blend control and work it on our new Compressor Plus. So that's when we made that change when I got that worked out. So
very cool. I also the other pedal that really intrigued me was the and I have to look at it right here, was the 30 ms automatic double tracker.
that was another a fun time in our DSP development, because and I talk about this with Aaron a lot, trying to remember who's got the better recollection of how we developed it, but he developed it. But he was telling me about we were talking about a chorus, and in chorus there is a delay with another signal, and it's a short period of time. That time gets kind of moved around, and that's what creates this kind of this oscillator that creates this kind of chorusy sound that we all know. And when I was asking him, well, what's the fastest that we can get a delay time for? Because when I had done analog delays or cheaper digital delays, digital choruses, I had a problem with this fast delay time needed, this number of milliseconds that seemed fast. And he says, oh, we can go as fast as we want. And he said, less than 1 millisecond. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's really interesting. And as we're talking about trying to do a chorus, the subject of the Beatles came up, and the subject of double tracking came up with. And I remember asking him, well, if we have a very short delay line, can we actually run two? Can you make one go faster and then one go slower? Can you change the pitch and make the pitch go up and pitch go down? Do you know how to do that? And he was like, yeah. And I've been reading about, double tracking and Ken Townsend and John Lennon. And I've been reading on this site how they did it. And, we were off to the races. And I thought, well, that really hasn't been done in a pedal, because this was, and so I desperately tried to search for who had done a double tracking type pedal. And I think we were kind of early on. Too bad we didn't have our signal routing skills down as much as I would have liked to. But that 30 milliseconds pedal is really cool, because we could start to add features, and we could start to get really excited and start to daydream about stuff. So I wanted this pedal that had, like, you could tune up to, what was it? I don't even know if we went up to 30 cents or not, but you could tune up, you could control another voice, and you could detune that one by 10 cents, I think is what it was. And then you could set the delay of those other guitar players that we created, off by up to 30 milliseconds. And then we send one dry signal out, and we send out one wet signal of this guitar or two guitars that you created. And that stereo imaging was so cool to hear, and then to recognize how many times it had been used on recordings. And I was like, oh, wow, that's the sound. It's not chorus that I heard, but I knew I heard something, and I just had no idea what it was. When we came out with the pedal, and then I hear, Mike Herman's using it on a demo for You're No Good and a bunch of other songs that kind of had it too. I thought, wow, this is really cool to have it in a box. And then we added reverb to it. So, I thought it was like kind of the ultimate acoustic guitar rig, where it had this double tracking for chorus, and then the Abbey chamber reverb. We added a chamber reverb to it that we were trying to simulate from Abbey Road Studios. So that was a really cool time, where we were able to, at our very first kind of like, have an idea that's not done in a pedal, and we can put it together. That was like that, and that was a really cool pedal then. Doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that sounds like a must-have for me. I need to get it. That's
yeah, that's pretty cool. I've heard it before. It's good.
yeah.
And now we have all the signal routing issues, because in the beginning, it's so funny. This is what happens when you think your own idea is good. So in the beginning, I thought, okay, I just want to play like Trey Anastasio of Fish, and all I want is for this. I want this second channel to come on, and that's gonna be, you know, something to drive this amp for a lead. That's what I thought people were going to use the 30 milliseconds for, as like almost like a signal splitter or something like that, and they would use it for an effect to bring on the amp only when they wanted the pedal on. Well, that was so incredibly wrong. No one wanted it that way, and we continued making them the wrong way. And eventually, I learned that no, the customer, when they turn the pedal off, they want both amps playing. They don't want to, you know, have one amp die. And so we had to, essentially, we just gave everyone new pedals. That anyone that ever says, "Hey, this amp shuts off when I turn the pedal off," you know, we give them a new unit. But the 30 milliseconds was such a great learning experience for us, and definitely helped get us to the level that we're at now.
That's awesome. Now, does that pedal, do you recommend putting that in the loop?
No, I don't think I'd recommend putting it in the loop. I mean, if you wanted to hear the stereo part of it, yes, I would recommend putting it in the loop if you're just a mono guitar player like I am most of the time. Then, like, I got this Supro over here with an effects loop in it, and I would easily put the 30 milliseconds in there, sure, because you can still get the double tracker effect, great effect in mono, and then that reverb. So you can have kind of like a, you know, one-stop, you know, chorus and reverb on one pedal in an effects loop, but it doesn't have to go there.
Gotcha. That's cool. Good stuff. I'm going to go back to the chat. I don't know, Dave, if you saw any other questions.
Oh, someone was commenting. Wyatt Benjamin Walker said the Monterey, Dark Side, and Loomer are amazing. How about Beatles in a box?
Well, man, we did half that kind of chorus modulation part of it, but there's not a lot to chew on for effects pedals for the Beatles. That's what I've come to this in my mind. I've kind of come to that sad conclusion. I'm just like, I don't have a lot I can offer you, you know, so I don't really want to just go down that path, darn it, if I can't do it right. And I just don't think there's enough, like, hey, here's this great Harrison sound, here's this one, with enough options to make it worthwhile, or to to be creative with. I just don't have it. So darn it, no Beatles in a box.
Well, let's see. Oh, I want to make a mention. Big Mac, thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I got a question for Dave. Can I ask? So
please.
now that you have amps and pedals for years now, is it two different? Is it two wildly different beasts, or do you have to think about your product as like there's two different armies that you have on different hemispheres, or what is it like?
Yeah, no, totally. Well, there's more hemispheres than that. There's guitars too.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Oh my God.
There's 3
Tri-spheres. Yeah, you got.
And eventually there'll be bass, maybe.
Oh wow.
So, well, I say maybe because it's not anywhere close to being ready. I guess it's different. I mean, I guess I just kind of target kind of an idea for a pedal that I want to do in my head, and then figure out how the hell we're doing it. Right. And, you know, it's like, well, I want to boost with this kind of feature set, or I want something with something. You know, it's just like you, just like figuring out your idea in your head, and then how to accomplish it in the end in this little box. You know, and then what does it look like? And then what is it called?
I know, right?
You go down that rabbit hole, and yeah, so. And whenever you start bringing up names in my world, people go crazy. they go crazy. They give me lots of ideas.
Yeah, I bet
that I'm pretty much shying away from these days a little bit. So
I get that.
Trying to do, You know, the funny thing is, even if I come up with a normal name, they still think it means something.
Right. It's got a hidden meaning.
It's got a hidden meaning, right? It's just like, what does golden pearl mean? I go,
Right. Well, I saw Henning. Henning was like,
golden pearl
"Oh,
means nothing."
Yeah.
Wait,
I'm
what did
sure
Henning say?
Henning in one of Henning's videos, he said something like, Dave says the golden pearl doesn't mean anything or something like that, but yeah, it means something. We know it does."
Yeah.
I swear to God, it means nothing. There is actually like jewelry that they have a golden pearl, but it doesn't mean anything. It
Right.
sounds like it means something, but it doesn't mean anything.
Right. And I get the no more tears wah, because the crybaby wah.
Yeah.
No more tears. I get that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That,
I like that.
that shouldn't offend anybody.
No.
So
Our small box head, well, you know, they seem to think that's something bad, but really it's named after the old Marshall small box series of amps.
right.
You know, the small head box, known as a small box.
What? That's the first time. That's the first time I thought about that. Oh my god!
It's really, yeah. Came up a couple times. It got a little uncomfortable. It came up in England when I was doing a clinic, and this guy's wife who was there asked me the questions about the names.
Yeah.
No, and I'm like, oh god.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but I mean, she didn't really have any problems with him. It's just I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
And she asked about the small box.
Yes, I believe that was where that got asked. Yep.
Wow.
And then I had to actually explain what it was. Of course, now people are getting so. The younger crowd has no idea what a small box is.
Right.
They don't know. So I mean,
but it's going back to the old.
They don't know a lot of things, but you know.
Right. Oh, it's so funny.
I think we're losing. I get the feeling over time that for as much information we have with the internet and everything that exists today, that didn't exist when I was growing up, or Robert, or yourself, I almost feel like we're losing knowledge. Like people, you would think, you know, the internet is this vast wealth of knowledge, but there's a lot of things that are actually disappearing from the internet now. That I found maybe like in earlier days of the internet, there was more technical knowledge in our field about amps and guitar amps and like, you know, user remember, of course, you probably remember Usenet news groups and stuff.
Yeah, those bulletin board groups.
And boy, man, they went crazy on there with all sorts of knowledge and stuff. And now go try to find that same stuff these days.
Right.
You know, it doesn't exist. And I almost feel like, and some of the questions I get asked on a daily basis, I literally want to bang my head against the wall, because they are the most fundamental basics for a guitar player that I've ever run into, and they just don't know them. They don't know the answer. I'm sure you get them too.
Oh yeah, man.
I mean, like you reread the email a couple times, and you're like, is he really asking me this? He
I know I have to reread them sometimes and reread my own answers and chill out a little bit. It is kind of funny because it seems like you either had buddies or you had some other way to work out the information, like Dave's saying, where it seems like we're losing some sort of part of the information or part of the knowledge through the internet. It seems like when we were more, you know, when we had to interact together to get the job done to play music, it seemed like you learned more, or you were trying to learn more, instead of maybe the I'll look it up on YouTube type of attitude later on.
Yeah. And then the problem is some of these, you know, groups or forums or different things go away, and then you then the information is lost, and then there's not like, you know, unless you saved it, there's not an archive of it somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, Harmony Central, I think, is a perfect example of something where there was lots and lots of useful information.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it seems like if it's not gone, it seems like it's not as accessible, like you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
you know
I
what it
think that
is.
I think that there's a lot of things that are like that in this world, though. I mean, I think, like houses used to be plastered. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And now try to find someone who can plaster a house and do it well.
Right.
Yeah, and that isn't 80 years old or 75 years old. There's some craft and some fine crafts that have been lost over the years, and try to find people who lay terrazzo flooring.
Try to find people to do anything on your house is pretty hard
Yeah.
to do.
Someone
I mean,
to show up, just to show
yeah.
up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, all of these. I mean, even watchmakers, right? Watch
Mhm.
repair
Yeah.
people. These are skills that are just being lost.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And then like a lot of skills are being lost, like even like in younger people, even how to use certain tools and things like that, because it's like when we were kids, we were messing around with tools and building things and doing stuff, and now it's more of a computer based life, so to speak. And I wonder, I always wonder, so if something really catastrophe really happens and all this stuff goes away,
Mhm.
will people just be standing in the middle of the streets going in circles, not knowing which way to go or what to do? It's like I can't how do you I find a good one. I don't know, well, I can't get any money out of the bank.
Yeah.
I can't how am I going to pay for this?
Yeah.
right, I don't have Uber. How am I going to get a ride?
How am I going to get a ride? How am I going to, I think we're losing some stuff, and I don't think that's a very good thing, and that's, I'm not even thinking of a really good one, a real simple one,
No.
It's like,
No.
it's like really like how do I read a map?
Well, that's the one I was
You
thinking
know?
of, Dave. I was thinking when you start getting into your phone and you start doing GPS stuff, and next thing you know, you're not capable of getting out of the parking lot unless you have like the address of the next place you're going.
Yeah,
You start
or how
becoming-
exactly, or how how do you do addition, subtraction,
Yeah.
longhand, or how do you do division, longhand, or how do you do multiplication, longhand?
Yeah.
If
Or
someone asked me to do
fraction,
that right
or-
now, I would be lost if I had to do like a long fraction right now,
Oh, I couldn't do a fraction either, so don't feel bad.
or a long division.
Long division, I have forgotten kind of too. Yes,
Yeah. Oh my God.
I could do the others, but
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I
and
mean,
then there's like newer the newer math that the kids do and stuff. And have you ever
Yeah, it's so
seen
weird.
some of that stuff? And like the explanations of how they're going about it, I literally look at it and go, why the hell would they go to this much trouble to get this simple answer when all you do is this?
Mhm.
Yeah. I've seen those examples too, and I tell you, I can't figure them out. I can't understand what they're doing. Why
I
they
don't
would
even
go through those
understand either.
steps.
Why so? I don't understand the steps. There's too many steps. It's much easier to just do it the way we were taught.
Mhm.
I don't
I think
I don't
so.
see the purpose.
And they have to show their work and use this method.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Very strange.
Don't
We
ask
sound-
me. I'll be just looking at the paper going, I don't know. Ask your mom.
That's exactly. Or let me get you a tutor. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no
I
doubt.
have no idea.
That's so funny.
Hey, someone said, L. Scott Music said, I still have a Thomas guide in my truck. You should keep it for emergencies.
yeah,
You never
exactly.
know. You never know. Oh,
Yeah, it's
wow.
fun.
Someone else goes, oh, Robert Baker. He goes, I live in Ohio. I've been preparing for that for moment in my entire life.
Right.
So Robert Baker.
Hey, Robert. Yeah, I'm just like, I don't know. That's a weird thing that I think about sometimes.
Yeah, Metal Dad says, exactly, Dave. Cannot find a plasterer here in Chicago. It's pretty much a dead craft.
Yeah, Brent Harmon. Millennials are the ones that are really screwed if technology goes away.
Yep.
Shoot, that's one of the reasons I've been kind of getting into woodworking and having fun with it, because you have to kind of detach from technology. You have to kind of stay grounded into making something. Not that I don't have enough stuff to do at work, but it is kind of fun to step away from this technology and try to do something with your hands. When I think of these young kids, I think they should get to using their hands a lot more. But that's just me.
No, I agree.
Todd Flowers goes, they can't read historical documents because they don't know cursive writing.
That's true. The whole cursive thing,
So that's not now. So this isn't taught anymore, huh?
Are you serious?
No.
It's not?
No.
Cursive isn't taught anymore, is it?
Wow.
In certain schools, my son said that he learned it, but my daughter barely learned it.
Wow.
And also like mailing a letter, like how to mail a letter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, huh? Actually, it's so hard. I remember there's one guy wanted me to send him this sticker I had for my rack systems company, and he's like, "Oh, please, you want to put it in the back of my amp? Please send it." And I'm like, "Okay, I will." And my problem is that I didn't have any stamps, and he kept bugging me, and I go, "Look, here's my problem. I have to actually go and make a special trip to the post office to buy stamps to mail your sticker when I haven't used a stamp in like 2 years." So, or longer, or once a year it happens, one stamp, and only because I can't do it any other way, And in fact, the same thing is coming up. I have to mail something tomorrow. I'm like, God, really?
Yeah, I just go to the post office and bring everything with me.
I wonder when the post office will go out of business is what I want.
They're not. Bro, I just spoke to my postal person. Amazon is killing them. Amazon is overloading the postal service. I think Amazon is the one that's really keeping the postal service alive.
It is pretty strange how the post office jumps to the tune of Amazon. I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it for years, longer than I have, where you got people that aren't even in a uniform delivering mail on a Sunday, and you're like, are you really supposed to be here? I can't even tell. Or you have people that just drive up to you in civilian clothes and a car, and they're handing you an Amazon package.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, man.
Yeah, they have side people delivering. They also have the post office delivering. I mean, this morning at 7:30, I had packages delivered to the house. One of them was an Amazon package. At 7:30 in the morning, the doorbell rang.
Wow.
The slow death of all other stores.
It is.
Well, actually, you know what? Let me tell you something. I was forced this weekend to have to go to Target for something, and I literally pulled in the parking lot, and I'm looking at the parking lot, going, "Oh my God, there's no parking spots." And I mean, like,
it's the worst time to go right now, though.
None. So I actually left and went to a different store. But in the end, I had to come back, and I had to go in. And then when I went in, they didn't have what I needed. So, but I was forced to go in, and literally, I couldn't get where the checkout counters are. You couldn't walk down that aisle past them. They were so full up. I'm just looking at it, going, "Oh my God, I want to leave. I want to leave right now." Thank God for Amazon.
Yeah.
Can't I just get delivered with Prime to my door tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I find myself doing that all the time now. It's just like a click, click, click. Okay, it's gonna be here tomorrow. And it is. So
yeah, late night Amazon buying is dangerous. I found myself in that hole. I'm like, oh, let me look up some shirts.
Yeah.
It's so funny. You know what? Let's go back to the chat and see if there's questions. How you doing on time, Robert? We're an hour and a...
Yeah, I got a good 10 more minutes, 15 more minutes. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sounds good.
Sure.
All
That's
right.
good.
So I'm going to jump around, see if we have some questions here. Robert Begg, I'm pretty sure every question I asked Dave is one of those questions. Not sure what he means by that. Travis Posey, the No More Tears wah. At first, I agree with you. The No More Tears wah kind of confused me at first. I associated it with Zakk Wylde and Ozzy. When I first saw it, I was like, No More Tears, Ozzy. What? Yeah, I did have that feeling too.
Dave, that must
And then it went. Oh.
Right. Well, right. I was like, why would he name a pedal after anything Ozzy's doing?
Well, technically, the name is the Gold 72 wah, but
Right.
it's the No More Tears series. So, which of course means there'll be different wahs down the future.
Right.
Twice the punishment.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the official name, or what's the actual name?
It's the Gold 72.
I love that Gold 72. That's pretty cool.
And you know what? It's funny. It really didn't mean too much at first. It rolled off the tongue nicely, and it was sort of, I was shooting for more of an early 70s wah kind of tonality, not like an early 60s, not like a late 60s one. So it fit in the end.
That's cool.
I think the No More Tears thing came first, but then it's like, well, what if you want to do a second one? That should be the series, and then you do a second name.
Right, exactly.
All the stupid things you think of when you're starting naming things. Now that won't work.
Oh my gosh!
And then you're like, oh crap, another company has that. God dang it!
I know. By the time
just when you decide that's the best one, that's great, and you look it up and you're like, oh,
already taken.
Sir used that. Can't do that. Okay.
No, I've had a horrible time trying to come up with names. Recently, it seems like everything I pick, a month later, I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. Well, I can't imagine saying that for the next 5 years. So, hear me, I'm pimping another bad name. So,
are there names of pedals currently that you have that you're like, oh God, I wish we had named that differently?
No, I've just had an exceedingly difficult time chasing myself in circles, because I had it in my head that I was going to do like these musical names, like things that were musical terms, like maybe Italian things. So I'm like, okay, there's aria, there's duet, there's all kinds of, there's, pianissimo, there's all these cool words, colorful words. But the problem is, who wants a pedal series with a bunch of, Italian, kind of sounding names? It doesn't fit. You end up having to force your product into this kind of mold. So I took off on that path where I was thinking, well, maybe I'll have my pedals named like this to give some cohesion to the brand or something. But it never does work that way. With pedals, they're just kind of a strange mix of stuff, and sometimes a crazy name fits. Sometimes a crazy name is just really bad, so Dave knows this stuff just as much as I do, naming stuff and naming conventions and stuff like that. When it can be a pain to try to, I don't know, be creative.
Well, and then you got to check trademarks, and then you got to,
yeah. It is strange coming up with names like that.
Yeah.
And then not only do you have to check trademarks, you got to actually see if someone actually has used it in trade.
Which is hard to do.
Because if someone used it in trade, it could still be an issue, even if it's not trademarked.
I have a question for you guys, for both of you guys. What do you think of this trend of pedals that are coming out that are not labeled what they are? So, like even like some JHS pedals and
like the Morning Glory, and it's just like a little squiggle or something on it.
Yeah, and like even just Earthquaker pedals, they don't say what they are.
Well, Earthquaker pedals have a name on them.
They have a name, but I don't necessarily know if they. Maybe I'm thinking of a different brand.
Oh, like they don't say overdrive or
right. It doesn't say overdrive or distortion or delay or.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of things are that way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I remember a time going, hey, I can't tell what this pedal is and blah, 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 blah. But I realized that a lot of guitar players and a lot of the youthful guitar players don't really think in terms of it has to be labeled this way or it has to be obvious. And sometimes they like the fact that it's, just not there in this, overdrive. It just says something else. And so I kind of was like thinking the same way. I was like, man, I want to look back on this instrument or this tool, and I want to know what it does. I don't want it to be tied to a certain time frame, but that's not how every other consumer thinks, and so sometimes.
Yeah, I'm more of the traditionalist where I wanted the pedal to say what it is. I don't know why, but I'm just so.
Right.
Hey, Mark, I thought I'd tell you this, but every time you move, I think you hit the chair that your guitar's on behind you.
I think the Les Paul's gonna die like any second now.
It's
like, there it is. It's going.
This would be great entertainment to see the headstock snap off, but
I keep
I'll
on thinking
move it
that
away.
thing is.
I'm not so sure that you're going to be happy about that, though.
I know.
For the entertainment value.
It's well secure on there, but I appreciate the concern. Thank you.
Into it. We're concerned.
No, I don't want that to happen. Trust me, that's one of my pride and joys. So that would be bad. All right, let's jump back. Dave, from Eddie Van Hendricks. Any update on the Friedman speakers? How did your final listening go?
I didn't do it yet.
Okay.
So no update.
Okay.
I'm trying to get to it. I've been trying to recover for about a week from my trips and then Thanksgiving and everything else. So
yeah.
It took about a week to feel actually kind of back to normal.
I can only imagine how difficult it would be to audition speakers. Is that what is going on? This guy's asking about auditioning.
Yeah, no, we have a Celestion that might be coming out, and I have to do a final listening test after I've lived with it for quite a while. I want to do one more like A/B listening kind of environment.
Yeah.
So I make sure I'm not insane.
Mm-hmm. Man, I hear you.
Just like, because you can, like, after you live with things for a while, sometimes you're like, well, I wish I would have done this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, the speaker will not come out unless I am entirely 100%. Yeah, let's do this. So.
Right. Well, that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brian Landreth says, please say thanks to Robert for such outstanding customer service. He goes above and beyond.
Shoot, that's very kind of that guy to say, but I can recall many numerous times I've lost my cool with customers. So I think that's customer service based on I'm trying to make up for the last time I told some dude buzz off.
Well, yeah, but that's basically So now you're treating it differently.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So, but thank you. We do try to make sure we treat people really right. So
that's awesome.
I think everybody does.
Dan of New Jersey says your compressor sounds so well with a telly.
Man, that's the oldest picture you can find of my compressor in my business is a Telecaster, a Tweed amp, and my first compressor there, and they do sound good together. I'm kind of really proud of that. Yeah. Yeah. So
of course.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Totally. Randy Rosenblum, great show, guys. It's my favorite gear show. Thanks for saying that, Randy. By the way, he's my cousin, so so I paid him for that. But thanks, buddy. Let's see. Dan. Oh, he also said, I love your compensator. I have a model with a painted heart. Compensator?
Oh, I think he's saying compressor. Maybe just autocorrected. But he's got one with a pink heart on it, huh?
That's what he said. Yeah.
We had some that were done for variety of causes.
Oh, that's nice. Cancer
awareness type things, and we've had some hearts on there that were tattoo related, like Ed Hardy type art.
Yep.
So I don't know which one he has, but thank you.
Travis Posey says, "Is that a DGT behind Robert?"
DGT.
Not sure what DGT is.
I'm feeling bad because I don't know what a DGT is.
Neither do I.
That's a Paul Reed Smith. This is a K-line. This is a kind of a mutt Frankenstrat and Eric Clapton one. I don't know it. A DGT, darn it.
Is that a pedal or something, or no? Or
I don't know.
Hmm.
No, that's a Gretsch. I got a Gretsch there, a Milkman. I don't know about a DGT yet.
What's the head behind sitting behind you? Is that a head?
This.
Right.
Oh, is that a head?
The one
It's a
beneath,
Gretsch.
like by the chair, the one that has the pedals.
Yeah, that's a little Fender combo, another Fender, Gretsch, a Dr. Z down here. a
Oh, that's what I
Milkman.
was thinking. The Dr. Z, yeah.
Oh, okay, and then a box and some more stuff. So it's just a
Cool.
hodgepodge of stuff. It usually if it.
oh,
if it's-
DGT is the PRS guitar,
Oh,
gold top, something gold top.
yes. This is a McCarty,
That's
Mhm.
gorgeous.
and I don't know if you can see this, but back in the this is
Oh, it's not a gold top, so it's a flame
super sustain.
natural. Yeah.
The cool thing is Paul Reed Smith signed this one back in, I don't know, 2004, 2003 when I
Mhm.
first met him. So kind of one of the few things that survived my divorce was that guitar. So kind of proud of that one.
That guitar is gorgeous.
It is awesome. It's a really awesome guitar.
Yeah, beautiful. Let's just see if there's any other questions, and then we will let you run. Nigel Nunez says, any dual ODs on the cards, Robert? Perhaps
Dual
a
ODs.
tube screamer and a hot rodded plexi with a stackable independent a la the D&M drive, he says.
I know I really want to do another dual drive or distortion drive type of thing. So I'm interested in your ideas. You should email them to me and tell me what you think. I do have a dual pedals. I do like the idea of stacking effects. So we've got a dual pedal that has a drive in it, not a dual thing. But I'm always looking for those good combos. Like I said earlier, that D&M pedal with Dan and Mick is a perfect example of something I would not have done at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sounded like a good idea, especially when I heard it too, so send me your ideas. he did mention it there.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So definitely.
Cool.
Yeah, Nigel, email Robert. Oh, my wife was in the chat. Hey, April, what's up? When is Zapadan 2000? When is the echo delay flange thingy coming?
That is coming in at the NAMM show, and he's saying that echo flange thing because that was a name for it for a while, the echo flange. But that's one of those sounds again that I was daydreaming about. Hadn't seen it done anywhere like this, so that's also the thing that is going to be. We're going to present that as our first stereo in-out delay platform. We took a big, huge step. We've been working on this new DSP processor for like 2.5 years now, and the board's taken about a year. Is taken a year to develop as well. So we just got. We're there. So we're gonna show it at the NAMM show. We got all the pieces working out. We're just working out little details now, like how do we switch presets? How do we set min and max on expression pedals, and control and stuff like that. So that is coming soon.
Sweet.
Yep.
Cool.
Sweet.
I got one. Mark here has asked Dave any NAMM hints for new or updated products. I think I've brought this up before. So there's I can't go into total details. There is the BE100 Deluxe that's coming out with a different feature set than the BE50 Deluxe. There will be the couple new guitars.
That's cool.
Guitar models, which I can't really say more about. And
I saw one was leaked a little bit on Instagram.
Oh yeah, it was. Which one was leaked?
The Cali Elite.
Oh, that we already do that currently.
Oh, do you do?
Yeah, we do those currently. So that's just kind of a fancy Cali. It's a maple topped Cali with a fancy finish on it.
Oh, I thought that was new for NAMM. Okay.
No, we done a couple before. We haven't put it into full production, but yeah,
Gotcha.
those. We also have another amplifier, which I can't say yet. It's a 20-watt amplifier, but I can't say.
Oh, that sounds
any
cool.
more than that. 2 guitars and 2 amps. I do believe that's it, because we just finally released our pedals that we showed last year now. So
Right.
we're going to play a little catch up here.
And the Mike No Mo is coming?
Mike No More, actually, yeah, that's finally. So I got to check on that, see where that's at. But yeah, I think that's finally coming. And the pickups are already actually have been released now.
Yeah, I saw somebody recently posted them.
So
yeah, put them in his PRS.
There's another new pickup too that we'll have at the show.
Oh,
Man,
sweet.
you got a full schedule.
Yeah, the problem is like a lot of times like we'll do like too many products to release at once, and then we're playing catch up, and then it doesn't get done fast enough, and everyone's bitching. So
Yeah.
So several of the products will be literally shipping at NAMM.
That's
Not
great.
not showing it at NAMM and hopefully shipping. It's either they'll either actually technically be released at NAMM or within the 30 days following NAMM.
Right.
Most likely it'll be the end of February. They'll actually will be the release date, and
That's great.
But meanwhile, we'll be able to ship to dealers right following NAMM during that month. So, because the dealers got to get it in stock,
Yes.
and then you release it, and then inevitably there's always a dealer that releases it early.
Yeah. Thanks.
No matter how many times you tell them not to.
Yeah.
There's a couple that sneak out.
Oh yeah.
And then you got to smack them on the wrist. And and then well, then they just don't get pedals as quickly.
Yeah.
When am I going to get those? Well, yeah, 30 days or so.
Mhm.
Follow the rules. Follow the rules, please.
Follow the rules, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's another question for Robert, and then I think we could probably let you go. It says, going back to the Dan and Mick pedal. So are you going to continue making that pedal? And just wondering when end of life would be for something like that product. I imagine if it's doing well, you're going to keep going.
Yeah, I'm totally happy with doing that one, and talked to Daniel just a few days ago, and we're brainstorming more pedals in this, Dan and Mick type series or things like that. So as far as I'm aware and concerned, we're going to be doing this one for quite a long time. I think it's a great combo. So
awesome. Let's take one last question.
Yeah, please.
From Mark. Not me, but he asked Robert about his work on the Chase Bliss Dark World reverb. It's sold out overnight and the Keeley side is hailed as the best part of the pedal.
Well, man, that is something I'm so glad you asked about, because working with Joel Corti is amazing. He's Chase Bliss, and he had an idea where he wanted to combine standard reverb sounds, worldly ones, ones that you hear quite often, and then he wanted to combine crazy stuff, and he involved us for the stuff that was on the world side of the pedal. And that dude and a videographer came out, and we got to talk sounds, and he got to hear some of the stuff that we were working on in my office, and then him and my DSP guy continued to work together and nail down these sounds. And yeah, Joel was telling me that he had like unparalleled success with that first pedal, and that he just had huge then back orders after he sold out like the first 1,000, and so he was really happy with it. And I was like, you did a lot better than my latest release. So good for him. And that Chase Bliss pedal is just great because of the way Joel combines all these different feature sets, like the little the MIDI stuff and the different oscillators, the different wave shapes, the different blah 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 blah, all that stuff that you can control so well with a Chase Bliss design. And he did it on the reverb, so he finally he finally found the perfect way to address the fact that his customers wanted a reverb pedal, and he couldn't do it with the analog hard digital mind type thing completely. So he had to manipulate that a little bit, and I think he came up with a killer product because the way he combines both of the reverb sounds We got to use that same reverb in not the exact same reverb, but we got to use a similar reverb in the Milkman amplifier, and the amp, I think, is the actual name for it. And so we've had a lot of success with our reverbs. I know we put a lot of time and effort into them, and talk about all the magic that happens in a little teeny, reverb trail that lasts a fraction of a second. You know what I mean? But there's lots of magic that happens there.
There is, right?
Yeah.
That's an important sound. Well, I want to thank you so much, Robert, for coming on. Oh
man, you guys are great. This is a lot of fun. I really would like to come out and visit Dave. Is it possible? Are you anywhere near the NAMM show? Is your shop? Are you guys that close? Or are you just?
I mean, do you come out earlier?
I've actually been working with with my guys to come out there a couple days earlier, like almost 3 or 4 days earlier or something like that, possibly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could come by the boutique factory if you want.
Well, that'd be great, man. I can't wait to see it.
It's not too far. That's in LA, so it's a little bit closer to Anaheim than not. So it's not too bad.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. Just hit me up. Just hit me up somewhere.
Sure.
FriedmanAmps@gmail is my email, so easy to remember. Hit me up and we can hook that up.
Yeah, I'd love to hang out with you and check out your shop and stuff like that. That's so fun.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see your new guitars too.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm sure it'll be a little bit crazy right around then. But,
yeah, I don't feel like I shouldn't have imposed, man.
No, it'll be okay. The funny thing is too, you'll get to see the factory is doing a little bit of moving and restructuring over the last couple months. So we'll be set up even a little bit better than we were before. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
I'll set you guys up. I have your email, Robert, so I'll give you Dave's stuff. So you
guys for sure. Just come on out, no problem.
And we'll see you at NAMM. Definitely, I'd love to meet you in person, Robert.
Great.
And if you don't mind, Robert, tell the folks how they can reach you, or where people can find your products and all that stuff.
Sure. I mean, my email is keeley.robert@gmail, but you can go to the website. Our website, you can go to robertkeeley.com, or you can go to rkfx.com. And, lots of retailers and stuff like that, but check us out on the website.
Awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
I really appreciate you coming on. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're awesome. We have a couple other guests coming up before the end of the year. For folks who want to mark it down on your calendar, we've got December 11th is Josh from JHS is going to be on with us for a little bit in the afternoon. So that's going to be a
very cool
special time, quite early.
Special time, yeah. 3 p.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. Pacific time. And then cool. December 23rd, we got Robert Baker is going to come on with us. So Robert's our last guest for the year. And then January 11th, before NAMM, if that works for you, Dave. I haven't confirmed it with you yet. Although I think you said it was all right. With Zvex, Zachary Vex.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, sure.
You got Josh Scott and then Zvex. How awesome is that?
Yeah, man. It's
got everyone.
Yeah,
got all the cool ones.
Well, then we'll get Jamie from Earthquaker too. And then,
oh wow.
That he doesn't know it yet, but that's coming.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. And thank you everybody for tuning in. Please hit subscribe and hit the like button and check out your Keeley Electronics. They make some amazing pedals, really awesome pedals. And I actually have to get more on my pedal board. So nice. Robert, stay with us while we close up the show. And everybody have a great night, great week, and
bye, everyone.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dave.